Well, welcome everyone. We're grateful to have you here. I have Isaac Dudley from the Friends of the Verde River. Here's our guest presenter. I am Tracy Beasley, one of the water resource project managers for the city of Prescott, and the person who focuses on water conservation here for the city. So we are really excited about a partnership that we have going on right now through the spring, where we're working together to help residents and businesses identify projects that help with water conservation and put money in front of you to help you get these projects done. So the city has rebates and the Friends of the Verde have a grant funding. And today we're going to spend the next 50 minutes or so talking with you about both of these opportunities and how they work together. So I'm going to hand the mic off to Isaac, and he's going to spend most of the time talking about the grant program. And then at the end, I'm going to highlight our rebate program and how we can work together. So welcome, Isaac. Take it away.
Thanks, Tracy. Yeah, so today we'll be focusing in on our grant program, which is offered through our River Friendly Living program at Friends of the Verde River, which inspires a voluntary culture of river conservation at our homes and businesses. Specifically, what we're looking for is water conservation projects. And I have a short presentation here, which I'll pull up so that we can go over identifying a project, some of the different project types that we look at and we encourage across the area here. And we'll be able to get into a little bit of the project design and how you can go about filling out those grant applications. So with that, I'll go ahead and share my screen. Bear with me. Here we are. Tracy, could you confirm that my screen is showing?
Yes, I can see it.
Great, thank you. So the main focus of the grant funding that we have available is maximizing our water resources in the Verde River watershed. And specifically, we're hoping to be able to maintain surface flows and groundwater resources by essentially reducing the demand on those two different water sources in our area. So we'll be looking at a few different project types today. Efficiency projects, lawn removal, rain harvesting. We'll touch on a couple others as well. And then, of course, the grant opportunities. So just a little bit to start about our River Friendly Living program. This was launched in 2020 as a way to get these best management practices for a healthy river system off of the banks of the river and into our communities. Because ultimately, here at Friends of the Verde River, we believe that you can't have a healthy, thriving river system if the communities surrounding that river are not healthy as well. So we're doing a lot of this work to be able to encourage folks to implement projects on their property. So at the broad level, when you participate in the River Friendly program as a homeowner or a business or an organization, one of the things that we strive to do is provide as much support to you as possible as a participant. So that can look like site visits to your property, talking about project ideas that you may have, how that fits in to these grants specifically, and how it can improve the health of the Verde. And then ultimately be able to connect those participants to the grant funds that are available. Before I leave this slide here, on the right-hand side is a snapshot of the 2020 Verde River Report Card, which is a document that was developed by multiple organizations, including Friends of the Verde River, as a way to be able to standardize and measure the health of the river system over time. So you can see that there are some things that appear to be doing very well, and other things that need some work still, and that leaves us with an overall grade of a C+. So there's plenty of work to be doing. One of the things that we're focusing on today with these grant programs is improving the base flow quantity indicator. So specifically, that touches on surface water and groundwater uses. I'm going to skip the next slide there, but I wanted to show you all this. Our community grant program has been operating since 2014. One of the ways that we've been able to secure those funds is by working with our local businesses. These are a few examples of businesses that have supported the grant program financially over the last few years. In the top left is a collaboration beer with a local brewery called Smeltertown Brewery in Clarkdale. In the middle is a wine collaboration with one of our local wineries, Arizona Stronghold. And then we have also a solar partnership listed here with Pure Solar and Electrical. They have offices in Cottonwood and Prescott. They've been helping to provide quality solar project planning, as well as some grant assistance to our partners. So these are some of the ways that we've worked with local business to be able to fund these projects. This year, we have the benefit of receiving additional funding from the state of Arizona through the Water Infrastructure Finance Authority. And so we'll get into some of those new funding sources in a little bit. Now I'm going to just jump into how do you go about designing a project? What kinds of things should you be thinking about when considering applying for a grant or considering doing a project on your property? One of the first things that we always ask people to think about is, how much water am I really using right now? This can look very different, whether you're a homeowner, you have a business, or possibly you're an producer, or even up to the municipality scale. Those water uses can look very different. So we start there, figuring out our water uses on our property. There's a lot of different ways to go about that. Some of that support, such as water audits, can be offered through our River Friendly program. So that's one of the benefits that we try to bring to people. And what they do in a water audit is they look at all of your different water fixtures and water uses on your property, and determine efficiency projects that could be done to reduce that water and ultimately save you money. So that's a great place to start. A little bit more simply than that, many of us get monthly utility bills. So you can get a pretty good gauge of your water uses by reviewing your water bills from your provider. Especially in the Verde Valley region here, many people are on either surface water or an unmetered well, in which case usually we need to provide a little bit more support to get there because they're not getting those utility bills. So with that, the pictures here on this slide are essentially showing two different scales, two different types of flow metering projects. This is to help determine those water uses. And at the top right, I just mentioned our beer collaboration on the last slide. And so this is a small flow meter that the brewery installed so that they could very accurately measure how much water is going into their beer production. And that was able to help them determine possible savings, possible efficiency projects inside their brew cycle. We were able to determine that one beer batch can take between 300 to 500 gallons of water for this particular business. And so now we're able to make choices inside of that to be able to reduce that water usage, such as recycling water that has been used to clean the tanks and other opportunities in that. A larger example, and I won't spend too much time on this here, this in the bottom right-hand corner is where we installed a flow meter for the Abra Water Company, which is a water provider at the headwaters of the Verde River. We were able to essentially, throughout this collaboration, determine that they were losing a fairly significant amount of water, and we were able to identify one particular leak in their system that was losing about 1 million gallons of water per year. So understanding your water uses and understanding where your water uses are on your property is very helpful for being able to determine how much water you might save from a future project. So now this slide here speaks predominantly to irrigation practices. So these are outside, these are water uses outside of the home or business. They can be related to agriculture or simple irrigation of landscaping and other uses as well. So right now we're looking at two different projects. These top two photos on the right, on the top, the top left hand of the screen are a ditch repair project. You can see the tree that's circled in red there. That tree had ultimately broken this irrigation ditch, causing loss of about 2.1 million gallons per irrigation month. We determined that by repairing the ditch and allowing that water to be able to return to the creek where it belongs, on average, that's returning about an extra 25 million gallons of water into the Oak Creek and ultimately the Verde River each year. It's a little bit more difficult to see here, but on the top right-hand corner is an example of a lawn removal project at a local Airbnb here in Cottonwood. They wanted to get rid of a portion of their irrigated lawn so that they could reduce the stress on their well. This particular well was unmetered, so we were able to work with them to determine how much water that might save based on the amount of grass that they were removing. This has been a very popular project type, and it does have a very significant water savings. As you can see here, for 0.18 of an acre, the total estimated annual savings is 173,000 gallons of water per year. So not only does that support a healthy Verde River system, but that ultimately helps reduce the stress on their well at the same time. So that's a great example of a lawn removal project being put into action. Here's a little bit more information about that lawn removal project. This is the formula that we used to be able to calculate that water saving. So as I mentioned, they were on an unmetered well, so they weren't able to very easily and clearly tell how much water that they were using on their grass each year. So this value here, the NIWR, stands for the net irrigation water requirement. And so it's assumed that in our region here in the Verde Valley on this side of the mountain, that 1 acre of grass, 1 acre of irrigated turf uses about 2.96 acre feet of water per year, which is roughly 325,900 gallons. So we were able to quickly plug all those numbers in, and that gives us our gallons saved per year. That's how we got to the 173,000 gallons. Continuing on this theme of outdoor water uses and irrigation improvements specifically, these are a few assumptions that can help guide you when you're thinking about upgrading an irrigation system or installing an irrigation system at your home, possibly for the first time. So flood irrigation is often used when a landowner has access to surface water at their property. Here in our region, that's very common. Flood irrigation is generally shown to be roughly 40% efficient. So that's not a very high efficiency rating, and that comes from a few different factors. One is that a lot of that water that is flood irrigated does evaporate off. So there's a pretty high level of evaporation. Another factor that comes into play is that if your field or if the area that you're irrigating is not perfectly level, then some areas fill up with lots of water while other areas don't get enough water. And so that can lead to reduced crop yield, poor crop uniformity, and ultimately impact the bottom line of producers especially. But it can also make a big difference for how your yard looks at the end of the year. So when we're thinking about increasing that efficiency, the two main options that that people consider and that we talk about are upgrading to sprinkler irrigation, which is shown to be roughly 70% efficient, and drip irrigation, which is generally 90 to 95% efficient. So many of you can probably imagine what a project like this looks like. For example, here on the right-hand side of the screen, there's a standard sprinkler outlet. And so there is, of course, still some loss that's happening here. You know, it's not 100% efficient for obvious reasons. A lot of that water still does evaporate, but we can get a very significant increase in efficiency, especially when converting from flood irrigation to sprinkle. And then for many folks that have standard landscaping or gardens, a drip irrigation system can be a fantastic opportunity to get higher efficiency. So for example, if you're hand watering now and you install a drip irrigation system on a timer, that will quite dramatically increase the efficiency of the water use in your landscaping. These are just a few of the side benefits that can come with that. So based on the type of changes that you're making, you could realize up to 50% water savings, which is fantastic. You reduce erosion on your property, and you can help, like I mentioned, improve crop yield or the uniformity of your irrigated areas. So these are just some basic assumptions that can help guide you along your way. I won't go into this too much here, but I wanted to show you a few of the water uses of commonly grown crops in our region in northern Arizona. So pasture, alfalfa, turf, and corn are specifically the ones that are shown here. And you can see that alfalfa is quite a thirsty plant, using 3.33 acre-feet of water. So 1 acre can use well over 1 million gallons of water, 1 acre of alfalfa. Here, this kind of is a throwback to our lawn removal project that I showed you a couple slides ago. Turf uses about 2.96 acre-feet, which for 1 acre of irrigated turf, you can generally assume that you're going to be using about 960,000 gallons to make that viable and beautiful. So there's some general notes on water uses per crop. Now we're going to start getting into a few other project types. Rain harvesting and stormwater control. Another way we talk about stormwater control is passive rain harvesting. These have been very popular projects over the last years because it essentially utilizes a free water resource that then you can use to replace groundwater uses or surface water uses at your home and business. So the way this works is that essentially a hardscaped area, like a roof, for example, creates additional stormwater runoff. And we need to be able to control that so that ultimately we don't flood our downstream neighbors and have all kinds of other side effects. But it can be a great resource on your property as well. This image that we're looking at here is an example of an active rain harvesting system, which essentially means that you're capturing and storing water for use later in the season. Ultimately, when it's the hot and dry part of the year and we're not receiving rain. There's a few elements here that I'll point out to quickly. So just about anybody can put one of these systems on their property. The first step is to be able to send that water where you want it to go. And so to do that, we need to install gutters on the home. And that takes that water to a very consolidated point and allows us to capture that. So we have the gutters, and then your downspout, of course. There's a few elements in here. These are generally to increase the water quality that you get in your tank. So there are screened gutter boxes that allow you to remove some of the big debris, such as leaves and pine needles and stuff like that. And then there's a first flush diverter, which allows the dirty water from that very first rain to settle and keeps a lot of that dirt out of your tank. And then, of course, we have our capture tank. So some people call these cisterns. Ultimately, based on the amount of water coming off of your roof, we can determine how large of a tank you could support if you wanted to capture as much water as possible. And then you take that water and you connect that to your irrigation system so that you can water your plants, your landscaping. Some people use it for fun things like I know that there was a bike company in Sedona that was using rainwater for washing their bicycles after they were returned to them. So there's lots of creative uses that this rainwater can be used for. One of the things that we always encourage is to try to be replacing or reducing the amount of groundwater or surface water that you're using on your property by implementing these rain harvesting systems. This is an example of a passive rain harvesting system. Some people consider this stormwater control. These are a highly effective way of making use of the water coming off of your roof, and it's also very cost effective. So you can see here that there are far fewer elements in this particular design. So we, of course, have our source of water. So there's this downspout, which connects to the runoff of the roof. That downspout then goes into this basin, which is designed to slow down and allow that water to sink into the ground. And then you can also see here that there are plants that have been selected and installed in the basin to be able to make use of that water. It's getting a supply of water every single time that it rains. And a lot of our desert plants, especially, can thrive very well off of that water resource throughout the year. So it can provide a great benefit to your landscaping, as well as make great use of that water that's coming off of your roof. One of the design elements that we always mention in here. So first of all, the basin. It doesn't have to be a deep basin. A shallow depression is generally quite effective based on the size of your property and your project. Then we put in the plantings and we fill that basin with a mulch. And that mulch allows it helps to prevent that water that's in the basin from just evaporating off the top. So it gives it a much better chance of infiltrating, and it keeps the soil moist for a longer period of time, which is beneficial for soil health as well as the health of the plants that you've included. My next couple slides here go into how you can calculate your annual rain resource on your home. This is very important for considering to apply for an application. Considering to apply for grant funding. So one of the questions that we will ask you in the grant is how much water are you estimated to save per year? So if you're going to do a rain harvesting project, the first step is to determine how much water resource you actually have available. So to do this, everybody has access to a free tool that's very powerful called Google Earth. And so if you type in your address, for example, you can then use their measurement tool to outline your capture area. In this image, we're using the Friends of the Verde River office, which is located in a commercial property. So you can see the yellow line here is what I have selected as the capture area for running this calculation. In our area, we assume that we get about 14 inches of rain per year. And so our simple formula is your roof area, how big your roof is, times the amount of rain that you get each year. And then we have this conversion factor, which gets us to gallons. So you don't need to know all the math that goes into this figure. Just remember 0.623. And then when you multiply them all together, that'll give you your full annual resource. On the next page, I have that broken out for our office here. And so one thing I like to point out is that this is only one of the roof areas on this property. And it's about 4,000 square feet times our 14 inches times our conversion factor gets us almost 35,000 gallons of water per year. So that's quite a lot of water. What the landowner here is doing is using a passive rain harvesting system to control that stormwater. You can see um, towards the back and the front of the property here, there's quite a bit of landscaping and basins, which are designed to be able to take on that water and provide that water for the landscaping. So it's made quite a great little oasis on the property. So if you're going to take this your next step for your grant application, once you have this value figured out, you would then want to figure out how much of my groundwater or surface water am I replacing with the rainwater? And that would be your water savings that you would include in your grant application. I'm just going to briefly touch on this here. This is the basin that is on the top part of the photograph on the right-hand side of this page. And there's just three main elements that we should be thinking about when we're installing basins like this. So the first is the inflow. Where is that water coming into the basin? That's going to be your highest point. That'll be the tallest part of the basin. Then, of course, there's the basin floor, which will be the lowest part of the basin. That's where the water is going to pool and settle. It's going to slow down, spread out, and sink into the ground. The next element is your outflow. So we always want to plan for, all right, when this basin gets full, where does that overflow go? So that outflow is going to be somewhere between your basin floor and your inflow. So that as the basin fills up, it will reach the outflow, and then that water will go to where you want it. This is kind of a large-scale project. It was completed with the Mingus Union High School in Cottonwood, Arizona, in partnership with Yavapai County Flood Control and the City of Cottonwood. This was a number 5 priority drainage project for the city. You can see the bottom left there. That's what the site looked like before. And so we wanted to be able to capture that runoff that was happening, which is ultimately flooding the road and causing all kinds of erosion problems. We wanted to be able to capture that water and put it effectively back into the ground. So on the right-hand side is our completed project, which Friends of the Verde did win an award for this project. We're very proud of it. Ultimately, at the end of the year, this system is able to recharge roughly 2 million gallons of water per year, which is close to the use of 20 to 25 homes in the Verde Valley. So we can think, on scale, these projects can offset a large portion of a water footprint in a community. This is particularly important for the high school because much of the irrigation especially is run on a well. So any water that we can be putting back into the ground on their property will support the long-term health of their well.
Yeah, Isaac, before you go any further, I just wanted to pop in with a little tidbit or two here.
Absolutely.
First off, you do want to check your local area to get a sense of what the rainfall is when you're doing calculations for these sorts of projects. In Prescott, the historic average is 19 inches a year, but we have been measurably below that the last couple of years. And so last year, I believe we had 15 inches. I'm not quite sure where we are in 2025. But just keep that in mind if you're going to do one of these projects. Go ahead and do a little search of your favorite weather stations and see if you can find that information. The other thing I wanted to mention is if you want a different resource for your aerials, since we're talking about folks in Yavapai County, there is an interactive map. If you live within Yavapai County, that you can also do those square footage drawings. So just want to put that out there as well. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for jumping in with that, Tracy. The Yavapai County interactive map is a great tool. You can find all kinds of information on there, and it would absolutely be helpful for designing a project like this. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a slide related to fixture retrofits, but that is one thing that I wanted to comment on here. So we have been encouraging folks to upgrade and replace things like sink aerators, shower heads, toilets, upgrading washing machines, dishwashers, all kinds of different indoor water uses. And so I wanted to comment on that briefly. One of the best places to start in designing a project like that is to do a simple home water audit. Uh, and so, you can quickly find that in a YouTube video if you're curious about how to do that on your own. But ultimately, you measure the amount of flow coming out of your faucet or your shower head for 1 minute. And that will give you your gallons per minute for that fixture. A lot of residential sinks and shower heads are in the 1.5 to 2 gallon per minute range. Some are higher, some are more efficient. And so what we would be looking at is to have you increase your efficiency. So if you currently have a 2 gallon per minute shower head, you could replace that with a 1 gallon per minute or even more efficient. They do have more efficient models to offer these days as well. So that's one of the things that I wanted to mention. If you're not comfortable doing a home water audit on your own, one of the companies that has done a lot of that work for us is called EcoBlue, and they are a great resource for some of those projects, especially for commercial uses. So if you're a large commercial user and you're determining, how much water you might save by doing fixture upgrades, EcoBlue is a great resource for that. And there are others out there. Tracy may have some good references as well. The other part of that conversation is that the city of Prescott has a fantastic rebate program for some of these different projects. Here's just a quick snapshot of some of those opportunities that you can find on the Prescott website, and Tracy can give us a little bit more information on that. But things like purchasing rain barrels, installing a rain garden, replacing your turf, installing efficient washing machines, all sorts of different project types you can receive rebate dollars for through the city. And so this is a great way to stack incentives and stack benefits when you're considering one of these projects. With that, I wanted to now transition to our river-friendly living grant opportunities. So we just closed on the August 31st deadline. The next opportunity will be October 31st. And so that will be the day that you have to have your application submitted. You can find all of the application documents at verderiver.org/grants. You will see that there are a couple different proposals there, proposal documents. So make sure that you're reviewing the document that is most appropriate for your area. Notably, you'll see that there is one specifically for Camp Verde, and then there is one for the broader Yavapai County area that excludes Camp Verde. We do offer these grant opportunities throughout the entire watershed. So if you are located in the watershed, you are eligible for funding. These are just a couple of the largest funding opportunities that we currently have. Something to note there. So in Camp Verde, homeowners can apply for up to 1,000, and businesses specifically can apply for up to 5,000. Businesses and organizations, excuse me. In the broader Yavapai County project area, we've increased that cap thanks to some special funding from the Water Infrastructure Finance Authority. So now in that area, which includes many of our communities, including Prescott, Clarkdale, Cottonwood, Sedona, and some of the other communities around the area, homeowners can now apply for up to 5,000 and businesses and organizations can apply for up to 10. This is for each grant cycle. So we have 2 upcoming grant cycles, and you can apply for each of those and be awarded funding in each of those grant cycles. I saw your hand pop up, Tracy. Would you like to jump in with some
You
comments?
got it. That's what I just wanted to make sure everybody realized. That if you have a large enough project, you can plan based on 2 grant applications and double the potential funding that you may be able to receive from the grant program.
Absolutely. So if you're a business or an organization located in Prescott, for example, you can potentially secure up to $20,000 in grant funding between our October and our March cycle. Similarly, for the other areas, for example, Camp Verde, a business or an organization could qualify for up to $10,000, $5,000 per grant cycle. A couple of eligibility requirements that I want to make clear for everyone. And again, this is on our verderiver.org's/grant page. On the right-hand side is an example of a survey. This is our business and organization survey. So the first step for eligibility is to complete and return the survey that is most applicable to you. So this is our business survey. We have one as well for homeowners. So make sure that you complete that survey before really digging into your grant project. You can complete and return these surveys as part of your packet when you apply for the grant. But the completion of these surveys is the first requirement for eligibility. That essentially enrolls you in our program, which allows you to be a benefactor of the grant funds. And ultimately, we need all of the participants that we can gather for water savings, to improve habitat. We encourage volunteerism through this program. There's also opportunities to make tax-deductible donations. All of these actions help support the health of the Verde River, broadly speaking, by getting our program participants involved in the day-to-day action. In the bottom left here, before I leave this page, there's a quick screenshot of what you can expect to see on our website. This particular one is a little outdated. It's an old screenshot, but you will see the category of the funding. So it may say Yavapai County, or it may say Camp Verde. Then you will have your proposal document. If you're a business or an organization, there is a separate proposal document for you. Homeowners are not required to submit a fully fleshed out budget. However, we do ask for cost estimates, and we ask you to include things like screenshots of the materials that you're looking for, or a quote from a handyman or other laborers that are going to complete the project. For the businesses and organizations, because that funding amount is a little bit higher, we do ask for that fully fleshed out budget. So you'll notice here that there is a template that we provide for businesses and organizations. That's just a template. You can feel free to use your own structure, but be sure to include the budget with your proposal document. This is a bit of a tangent, but it comes into play for many of the folks that are completing sustainability projects. And so I just like to make everybody aware of it. When you're doing a large water savings project on your property, one of the things to consider is protecting your water rights. In Arizona, we have what is called forfeiture, which is something that gets into water law. Basically, it states that if you have a surface water right or claim, you must use that right or claim in a period of every 5 years at minimum. So if you're dramatically reducing the water use on your property, we always recommend submitting a water conservation plan notice to the state So that way you can protect your water right or your claim for the long period, for the long term, while still saving all of that water on your property. So that ensures that if you need to increase your water uses down the road, that you will maintain your right or your claim. So this is through ADWR, and it is a free plan that you submit, and once it is listed on their website, it has been accepted and is official. So I'm happy to help people navigate that as needed, but it's just something that we always recommend for these larger water sustainability projects. And I think that's all I have, Tracy. I'll go ahead and stop sharing screen here. There we are.
Alrighty, fantastic. And I will start sharing, which I actually want to start with your website. Was what you're showing was a little bit difficult to see. So this is the page we have linked right off of our rebate page right now. But it has phone number information here. And if we scroll up a little bit more, you can see the various categories of the grant opportunity. So you can dig into that. What is the best way to reach you if they want to, or someone in your office who's working on the grants, if we have folks with questions?
Yeah, the best way to get in touch with me is either by email or directly by phone. My email address is Isaac, D, ISAAC, and then the letter D as in dog, at verderiver.org. So that's my email address. They can also reach me by phone at 928-821-2002. If I do not answer your call, please do leave me a voicemail or send me a text message, and then I will be sure to get back to you.
Okay, perfect. The other spot I want to start actually is to just back up just a smidge. Isaac, can you confirm that you can see my screen?
I can.
Okay. Why are we partnering with the Friends of the Verde River? We're up here in Prescott, and so I have a map up here that if I get to the right size, hopefully you can see it. So the yellow spot right here is the Prescott area, the Prescott Active Management Area. And then this green outline, and I'll zoom back out just a little bit, that whole area is the Verde River watershed. And so we are sort of in the northwest or a little bit upper area of the Verde River watershed. The Little Chino Aquifer is our local water source, but we are very much tied into the Verde River and the health of the Verde River. And so that's what makes this partnership make sense in the work that we do. Beyond both of us wanting to just, be very mindful about using what we need when it comes to water. So I just wanted to put that out there. So let me get to our rebate page, our primary rebate page. There we go. Okay, so I know Isaac showed a little bit of this. So if you go to prescottwater.com and click on the blue button up to the right-hand side, it's going to drop you right to this page, which lists all the basic opportunities for rebates. We do highlight and have a link over to the Friends of the Verde and their grant program right here. And if you scroll to this spot here where it says click here to learn more, you want to go here. It will give you sort of the basic rules and guidelines for participating in our grant program. And then up here, it says review print. And so what that takes you to is a paper version of our rebate program, but it's super handy to look at this ahead of time, because if you get to the second and third page, all the very specific details on what qualifies and any rules that we may have, which is typically photographs and receipts. Occasionally there are additional rules, but all of that information is very visible on the print version, and it's set up to print out normal 8.5 by 11 paper, so you can print that out and have that at your side. And I have, let's see here, scrolling back up. Yeah, so a couple of things require pre-applications. That information we actually now have posted on the same page. It says print pre-application. This is for landscape related projects. So if you're wanting to take out turf, regardless of what you're going to put in, you need to utilize our pre-application. If you want to put plants in, excellent. You'll get a little bit extra with your rebate money for that. Or if you want to do a passive rain harvesting project, a rain garden, stormwater type project, then a pre-application is required before you get started on the project. So I would do this very early if you're wanting to use City of Prescott dollars, which I'll go over sort of how they work together in just a moment. But we do have this online, and there are guidelines specific to these types of projects, and they are all here on this form. And so it's things like no pop-up sprinklers, if for projects, if you're taking turf out, you're doing other things. Timelines, you have 6 months after you get started in a grant program like this. If you need extra time, we'll be working together. That's fine. We can extend that for you. Conversations about hardscaping and weed barriers. We want to make sure we get as much of that water flowing through and not causing other issues in the projects. And then there's some questions, a list of what you need. If you're doing rain gardens, we have information here, a little workspace here. And so we have that form there for those projects. And I encourage you, as soon as you're thinking about this and have some of the basic details, to go ahead and reach out to us here at the city specifically. But you can certainly always use the Friends if you're thinking of doing a grant application. You can tap their expertise as well. What was I going to show you related to that? Let me see here for a second. I don't remember. Maybe it'll come back to me. In this area too, you'll see a consent form. Most people won't need that, but if you happen to be applying for a commercial project, and you are not the entity that pays the water bill, then we would want you to complete a consent form with the property owner. For a larger project, if you are part of an HOA and it's not your water bill, this may be something that you want to utilize as well, but most people will not need that. And so, yeah, that is, yeah, there's my pre-application. So, as far as how to work, oh, I know what, I wanted to show you the rain garden page. So if you were on our outdoor page and you scroll down a little bit, I don't want to make you dizzy here. Lots of tips and ideas, but if you get sort of halfway through the page, we have some resources for plants, and I will have an additional resource up there soon. Local vendors, we're going to have more information on. Actually, I think I've updated that already. It's not yet based on, no, it has not gone up yet. Some rain garden experts, things like that. But if you go further down, we have a whole section on rain gardens. And if you click the dig deeper, these are the resources you would want to use in concert with that pre-application. So we have a very basic how-to guide, which I've gone through and made sure that all the current contact information is in there, that it speaks hand in hand with our pre-application. And we're working on getting some plant lists for our area specifically for rain gardens. So if that's interesting to you, if you don't see that on our website, go ahead and reach out to me. So how does this work together? Let's say, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. There we go. So let's say you want to do an indoor fixture replacement, which, by the way, did you mention that people can do leak repair in your presentation?
I don't think I did cover that, so
Okay.
that's a great reminder.
Okay, so if maybe you're not in the position yet to do the replacement, you can apply for grants for repairs. The City of Prescott rebates unfortunately can't cover the labor that goes into whatever project you're working on. That can be incorporated into the grants, which is one thing that makes this a beautiful marriage together. But you can also look into your irrigation system, and if you're having issues, again, trying to make those repairs and those upgrades, which I know you talked about switching from one type of irrigation to another, but if your system needs an overhaul, that can be incorporated into a grant application as well. So just wanted to mention that. But if you are going for a grant, what I recommend that you do is check our website, look and see if the project that you're wanting to do has a rebate that is related to your project. And if it does, if you are a resident, then it's very simple with the grant. What you do is you just mention I'm intending to utilize the city's rebate for toilets. That's going to get me, let's say it's $125 a piece. So mention that in the grant when you submit the grant. Once you complete your project, then you apply for the rebate money from the city, and we want to hear about the success, so we would love to have a copy of the approval or the grant, some documentation of that you've been working with the friends, so that we can say, yep, we're doing this, but we're not paying for the same toilet. Maybe your toilet was $300 and your labor was $250. So our rebate will help cover that first $125. And the idea is that if you receive an award for the grant, it will help cover the additional funds that are necessary to complete those toilet swap outs. And it would be similar for the outdoor projects as well. We do $1 a square foot or $1.25 per square foot for taking out turf, sod, grass, and replacing it with something that is not going to be such a high water use option. If you do plants, we have guidelines for that. There's a little extra incentive, but that is not going to cover the labor that is involved. And it may not even cover, if you're doing plants, the whole cost of the plants. It might just help you cover the cost of getting that turf grass out. So in this case, you would want to do a pre-application with us, probably about the same time that you're submitting your grant application to the friends, so that we know what you're working on. We get the same information that they get. We give you the thumbs up, this looks good. Mention that you're going for a grant. So if need be, I can reach out to Isaac and make sure that we don't have any questions between the projects. And hopefully you get the funding, you do the project, and then again, once the project is complete, you submit your receipts, your images, etc., and we will do the rebate after the project is complete. Send us the information on the grant, what you've received, so that when finance comes to us, I can make the case that no, that we're not both paying for the same thing. Together, we are paying for a larger project. And that's sort of the overview of how that works. So if you want to reach out to me about any of this, the email that you can use is watersmartrebates@prescott-az.gov. And if you want to call, then the phone number is going to be 928-777-1130, and they'll transfer you over to me. So any last thoughts before we close for the day?
I think we covered everything pretty well, Tracy.
Okay, awesome. Isaac, we really do appreciate you. And for those of you out in the digital world, thank you so much for watching this presentation. Again, we have rebates are always available, pending the money available here in the city. So there's no timeline for that. And we have 2 cycles. October 31st, and then March 31st. So you have 2 opportunities to get grant applications in. So thank you very much. We appreciate you joining us, and hope to hear from you about some wonderful water conservation projects.